Mana, a mystical ore which has been sought after for centuries. The glowing blue material has a reputation for being a near limitless source of powers, both mundane and supernatural. Though it was not always this way. Once, it was just as mysterious as the stars themselves. When the races of Embrium, the Old World, first discovered mana, they thought it metal. They had assumed that it could be forged and remade like steel or gold, but were unsuccessful. The ore was too brittle, and when they exposed it to extreme heats for treatment, it would catch fire itself. Eventually, the heat would cause it to pop and even explode. Many died in the pursuit of the mysterious material's potential. Wizards and warlocks alike would spend hundreds of years experimenting with the stone, eventually finding its use as a power source for simple machines, but even then they were far less effective than more traditional fuels. As a stone, it could work similarly to coal, but due to its destructive nature when exposed to flame, it was simply better to use their old fuels. Then, the Devil Lords arrived. The study of mana was halted, with only minor advances made. The few uses of the stone found during the 100 Years' War with the Devil Lords were primarily as explosives. Tossed behind enemy lines like modern-day grenades, it was effective against the Devil Lord's forces, but the overwhelming tide of demons summoned from the hells would eventually prove too much. Finally, with their backs in a corner, the ancient elves ceased the biting of their tongues. For centuries they had been aware of mana's true power and how to access it. They revealed that the mystical stone was organically grown structure brought to our world by their old gods. These same old gods had shared their gifts through potential, as well as the intricate tools which they used to refine it. The purification is a strange system which pulverizes the stones into a fine dust. After the stone is a little more than a powder, it is mixed with distilled water and similarly powdered silver, gold, or other materials, homogenizing the liquid into a viscous paste. The tertiary materials used in the formulation hold unique properties which grant the final product its own uses. Finally, the resulting liquid must be allowed to sit in open moonlight for a few hours to properly charge its potential. Excuse me, I went on a bit of a tangent there. Now, after this knowledge was shared, the joint races of the world began to use it in practice. The Ganassi and Dragonborn used mana, pouring it into their powers to create elemental devastation, which shook the very foundations of the world. Tieflings rose up to slay the demons, particularly resilient to their powers, with armor which only heightened their abilities. The dwarves took to crafting miraculous machines which mowed down armies, and the gnomes, they powered machines of a much smaller scale, but were miracles of medicine. There were those who stood against the rampant abuse of this power, largely the halflings and those of the orcish blood, as well as the elves. Their fears of what could be done with this new power was soon realized. The most impressive and perhaps the most damaging of all these creations, however, was the humans. Desperate, they delved into the deepest of arcane knowledge to create a horrific monument to our desperation, the Well of Souls. With the creation of the Well came the introduction of the newest race in our realm, the Warforged. Countless men and women sacrificed their mortal bodies to become a relentless machine. Despite all of these advances, however, the war raged on far too long. The abuse of power against such deadly foes as the Devil Lords caused unending wounds to the land, bleeding forth power in the form of planar rifts. Look out the window now, and you shall see in the far distance the radiant proof of mana's effect on our world. When finally we saw the ending of war, the races of the world formed a pact, now known as the Black Gold Alliance. The 12 races of the world brought together the most magically gifted and, with their vast stores of processed mana, proceeded to terraform over the old world. From that day on, Embrium as we knew it was gone. In its place we received the Fissure Seas, with Bastion emerging above it all. In the new world we began to use mana to build anew what was lost, but we may never again reclaim the powers of nature. Regrowing the foliage of the world proved too tiresome for those who had become used to the ways of war, always marching forward. Instead, they crafted machines which could process air for us to breathe, meat and vegetables to eat. As time has gone on, these artificial products, created through magical means, have lost much of their flavor and diversity, becoming bland imitations. Ultimately, children, we should learn from this history. The advances of technology are a beautiful and wonderful thing, but they come at a cost. If not done properly, we may very well end up recreating the disasters of the past. We could rack the world with powers beyond our ken, and lose all we love and cherish in the process. That is all.